I've got a series of stories about the way the Trump administration is exerting control over the culture. And as much as I want to talk about all of these right now, I think I'm going to take that whole set and push it off. And that's going to be our one big thing next week because we are running long. And I don't want to forget to talk about our one big thing this week, which, oh, hey, turns out we're living in a police state now. So this week, Monday, Trump said he is placing the Washington police under federal control and activating the National Guard, activating 800 members of the Guard in hopes of reducing crime. Of course, even as city officials stressed, crime is already falling in the nation's capital. So, according to District of Columbia Attorney General Brian Schwab, who sued the Trump administration this week, quote, the administration's actions are unprecedented, unnecessary, and unlawful. There is no crime emergency in the District of Columbia. Despite that, Trump invoked Section 740 of the DC Home Rule Act in an executive order to declare a crime emergency so his administration could take over the city's police force. He signed a directive for Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth to activate the National Guard. Now, police statistics show homicides, robberies, and burglaries are down this year when compared with this time in 2024. Overall, violent crime is down 26% compared with this time a year ago. Now, I've got a couple other things, and we're going to add those in, but let's open up this discussion there. Um, Derek, how does it make you feel to know our nation's capital is under occupation by federal troops?
Warm and fuzzy? Question mark. Um, yeah, it doesn't make me feel very good. I believe that it's a test subject um, for what the administration may want to roll out in other places. I hate being conspiracy theory guy, but I'm just afraid that it's just a test subject. See what he can do and how far he can go with it.
Yeah, this is like the second test, right? There was all that stuff in LA earlier this summer. Um, Activated National Guard there, sent in the California Guard with um, ignoring the wishes of Governor Gavin Newsom, sent in Marines. He sent in Marines to Los Angeles. Now, in DC is sort of a weird case because this is a federal district. They aren't a state. They don't really have their own uh national guard. Well, they do have their own national guard, but it's they're sort of under the control of the federal government typically anyway, whereas your state national guards are under the control of their various governors. But the federal government, I don't think they can come into like Indianapolis and federalize the IMPD there. This is a distinct thing for Washington with this Home Rule Act. They're taking what's on the books and exploiting it to the fullest extent. Is that what kind of you think's happening there, Josh, from a legal standpoint?
I think that's what they're starting off with, but they've already hinted that they're going to stay as long as they want, which goes beyond what they can do. Because my understanding is they can only do it for 30 days and they have to get congressional approval. And then they've already said we're
Hmm.
going to keep doing it. I think they will try to do this in a city, right? In a blue city. And they'll do it in a blue city with the red governor because with the Republican governor, they're not going to stop them. And I think we're finding out that a lot of things that were held up in America as, oh, that doesn't happen here, were held up because the people in charge didn't do them.
Yeah, they were norms,
I
but only
don't
norms,
know
not actual laws. Yeah.
the extent to which Republicans will go along with anything Donald Trump has said. I think then the Republican voters would accept it. And I think that there's enough Americans out there that I'm afraid would go along with this. I don't know, man. We've now seen this in California, we've seen this in DC, and I feel like this should be something that is literally shaking the ground, and it seems to be met with a collective shrug. Um,
I
I
mean, there
don't know what
were
the end of this is, but I think this is a test.
there were large scale protests in Los Angeles against government occupation there. Though, they it wasn't like shut down the whole city protests. It wasn't uh, more than a limited area. And no, eventually they did pull out the Marines and they did revert the guard back to local control. But yeah, they came in, they proved their point, I think. And by the way, I mean ICE is still in LA doing whatever they want, just without
Mm.
the extra protection from federal troops. Tracy, I think of stuff like this and the creep toward authoritarianism and how autocrats use crisis to consolidate power. And if you think back to the 1930s in Germany, there was this false flag operation called the Reichstag fire, right?
Yeah.
And the German parliament building got set on fire. Probably the Nazis that did it, and then they used the fact that this fire started, blamed it on the communists to declare martial law. And you know that event, the Reichstag fire, has gone down in history as sort of an event that authoritarians use to consolidate power. Well, here in America, we have the big balls beat down because one of the reasons that
It,
they're giving for this crackdown on federal or on Washington is that the 19-year-old who went by the nickname Big Balls, one of Elon Musk's Doge guys, right? He was still works in government, by the way. He's over at the Social Security Administration, getting into all your data now. His real name is Edward Corstein, by the way. Just Big Balls is what his mom calls him. But
oh my God.
So-
I was leaning too close. You got me off guard on that one.
So he was assaulted by approximately 10 juveniles near DuPont Circle in Washington at approximately 3 a.m. The previous Sunday. Tracy, can't we even get a decent crime to blame our authoritarian surge on?
You'd think. I think my favorite part of this whole horrible and frightening story. I live close to Chicago. It's one of the cities that's in his crosshairs. Everybody in this region has ties, and we're keeping an eye on that because if he pulls that shit, it really will impact our life. We live there, we work there. We have family that live there, but the biggest crime that they arrested for in this whole big crackdown was somebody throwing a fucking sandwich. I mean, like, if that is the full lethality of issues that we are that are these crime waves, it makes you wonder, how is it that nobody in Trump's base is even moved by the ludicrousness of this? How is it that these sort of like, at what level are we going to start? Is his base going to start saying to these sort of things? Because this is very clearly a manufactured emergency. We all know that. We all know what he's trying to do here. We all know that there are cities in Trump and red states with far greater violence than any of the blue cities that are under Trump's crosshairs. So why is it that none of them care about that? And how can we get them to care about that? That's where it takes my brain.
Well, Derek, what I want to know is where are all the Second Amendment people here? You know, I remember my whole life they've been talking about needing arms, needing assault rifles, needing hand grenades and nukes for all you know, to take on a tyrannical government. Well, here's your tyrannical government. Where you at? They're in the comments section cheering, saying, "Good job, Daddy. Give me more."
I would like to do a little bit of a quote here. Now I'm awake to the world. I was asleep before. That's how we let it happen. Nothing changes instantaneously in a gradually heating bathtub. You'd be boiled to death before you knew it. And that's from Margaret Atwood's Handmaid's Tale, about how they slowly grew into Gilead. And I am seeing a lot of what's happening right now as, how do you boil a frog? You don't throw them into boiling water, you let it slowly heat up while it's in there, and then it's cooked. That's what's going on here. Is they're doing little bits at a time, just getting us used to stuff until whatever they want to do. And we won't be able to do a damn thing to stop them unless, we actually fight back against it, vote in people that will stop it. And that's the only way we're going to be able to do it. I mean, people should not fear their government. Government should fear its people.
Yes.
What replies me was V for Vendetta, was Star Wars, was the Hunger Games. We know who the evil group was, and the resistance was always fighting against it. Well, we have our assignment. We know what to do. We just have to do it.
So now, Josh, you said you were worried that they're going to come for, like, say, blue cities in red states. But the cities that Trump has sort of already mentioned that could be next on his list are Chicago, New York, Baltimore, Oakland. These are all blue cities in blue states with black mayors. Gee, is that a coincidence, you
No.
think?
No, look, man, it's almost like I don't even know what to say at this point. Like I will say this. It does make sense that the event that could set off the actual downfall of our freedom from a police state was caused by a man who was insecure about the size of his testicles, both by screening and by action. Fitting.
So, yeah, go ahead, Tracy.
One thing I don't want us to leave this conversation with, though, is this, because we all seem to be feeling a sense of hopelessness and helplessness in this. And I don't want that to be our takeaway, because we're not there yet. We have seen, while it may not be the mainstream news, we have seen pushback, and we are seeing protests. It's not getting covered as much, but groundswell protests are everywhere and all the time. And it's like it's almost ambient noise now, but they're there. And it's still, so far, has been the only thing that has been impactful. Not the courts, none of that. The only thing that has done anything to do any pushback is on the ground protesting, which is happening all the time in these cities. And that pushback does have impact. We are there have been changes in what's going on in DC based on pushback. So we need to be encouraging people to continue to do that. And I don't want people to take these references to Gilead and these as signs that we are bound to a downward fate to follow the same trends that that Hitler has. We are not there yet. We can change things. We just have to do the work.
It's a fine line, right, Tracy, to walk between warning of what could happen and painting it as inevitable, right? Like if we stay on this path, yes, that is where we are going to go, but I feel like we have to offer an off ramp, because it does look like we are marching inexorably toward fascism, and all of us, we're hey, this thing's going on. Don't let this happen. And what's the alternative? Because Democrats largely, and this has been my complaint about, our party for the longest time, is that we say, I'm not that guy. We're not like Trump. He's bad. But what would we do instead? What is our vision for the future? Because we can't just go back to 2015 like none of this ever happened.
Oh,
We have
absolutely.
we have to offer a positive direction, I think.
And I think that's something the party is obviously wrestling with hardcore right now. And part of that part of the issue is that you still have the divide between progressives and moderates, and that is really it right there. And no one is yet ready to embrace, because the antithesis to what Trump is offering and the MAGA movement in general is offering is a progressive agenda. I mean, that's just the natural alignments of things. If you are into authoritarianism here and completely deregulated markets, no real protections for no social safety net whatsoever, no a fully free and open and unfettered greed of rampant capitalism, unchecked by any sort of governmental intervention. The opposite of that is a more progressive socialist agenda, but nobody in the party is comfortable enough embracing that to really posit an antithesis to Trump. And until we are able to formulate a platform that leans on enough aspects of progressivism to offer a contrast to Trump, we're never going to be able to have anything. They're going to continue to spin their wheels and say, you're not, because that's the only other option. If you can't formulate an opposition platform that is safe.
Yeah, this is how we avoided going fascist here in the 1930s, I think, because FDR went big,
Yeah.
and in order to push back against authoritarianism, we have to go big. Much in the way that FDR did, not exactly because it's a different time now, but we still have to swing for the fences and really talk about doing big things for the American people.
I think that's exactly what we have to do, because otherwise
Now,
we are
yeah.
just going to fail again.
So, Derek, do you think Indiana cities are ripe for a federal takeover? Is Trump
Mm.
going to send federal troops to Indianapolis or Gary or Hammond? Bloomington, I worry about.
I mean, I would have to say I really, really, really hope not. um, but Indianapolis would be the biggest, push for it. Um, if it's, I would really hate for Indianapolis and Bloomington because I live right smack dab in the middle of the two.
I can assure you that the Trump administration is not going to federalize Martinsville.
Oh yeah, definitely not. But there are a lot of us out in the farmlands that are very democratic. We're just really quiet about it, and we all hunt. So there is that. um, but I could see, up in the region, him federalizing. If he does Chicago, he'll do the region. I mean, might as well just take all of it at once.
Mhm.
Yeah. See, now on one hand, I want to say, given the cities he's already put troops into, and the cities they're talking about putting troops into, I'm gonna say I think this is, if they do these things, it's gonna be largely a show of force in blue cities in blue states. If we wanted a show of if they wanted a show of force in a red state, I think if they want to do something in Indiana, I, I think that Trump would have Braun send the Indiana State Police in or something along those
Yeah.
lines. But on the other hand, I mean, Big Beautiful Bill just gave ICE $180 billion, so there's federal funds at an almost unlimited scale to do just about whatever they want. Josh, I don't know. Does that change your mind at all? Do you think that the red states would maybe be more apt to use state forces than to have federal
Mm.
forces come in, or is there just not enough people to do it? Oh, you're muted again, sir.
I don't even know. Because I don't know. The thing that throws a wrench in all this is a lot of the Republican officials thinking about their next election and feeling like they have to go to any lengths to support anything Donald Trump does, no matter what value of theirs it compromises. So,
Well, yes and no. And the reason I'm saying that is because we're seeing a whole small stew of stories where at the granular, like at municipal levels, moderate Republicans, particularly in a state like Indiana, are starting to get bitten by the hand that fed them kind of situations. Like they are experiencing consequences for their embrace of MAGAism. And it's grassroots, it's bread and butter sort of issues that they're getting this for, like NIPSCO hikes and pushback about that. But, there's smatterings here, there's smatterings there, and it's just now starting. So I'm wondering, as we see more pushback for issues for ICE enforcements again, and we start seeing the consequences of Trump trade issues, and we see all of these issues with like reneging on solar grants and how that's impacting farmers. These people have their local districts to think about. And I think as we see these consequences starting to come home to these previously moderate Republicans that have not pushed back against MAGA policies, and those that comes to haunt them, I think we might see them pushing back more in other ways. So I think we need to. I hate to say. I'm not saying let's lay down and die and let them miss us, but I do think that we are. As more of this happens, we're going to see more of this.
No, that's a good observation. I think Tracy, we're not gonna see probably a lot of vocal Republican pushback from elected officials or media personalities. You probably won't see a lot of it online. Those spaces are pretty well captured by MAGA, but I think what you will see is um, around the edges, that soft support will fall away, and like, yeah, you're not going to hear a lot of people revolting against MAGA from the right online, but maybe they just don't show up for the next election. And I think that kind of has to be what we hope for. Derek, do you have any closing thoughts on the police state that is developing around us?
We have to remember that we have to take care of our friends, our family, our neighbors. Um, Ultimately, it comes down to who's around you, who can help you. We have to be there for others. And hopefully, I know we can get through anything. And just remember, we are the resistance. We will fight for everything that this country stands for.
Yes, sir. Josh, I'm going to give you a final word here today and then shamelessly plug yourself.
I now have recordings of you today telling me to plug myself and that I have every inch of my body's amazing. I've got so much mileage out of this episode. Um, Look, my final thought is this. I think what's depressing to a lot of us is the fact that some of these things are the police state, the Epstein stuff, the Medicaid cuts, all this stuff is just demoralizing. It's hurting people, it's hurting their lives, and you feel like it should change the way someone vote, and yet it doesn't. And I think it just needs to reinforce in us. Elections have consequences. Right now, we have two parties, one of which the Republicans, when they win, they do authoritative stuff and they do things to harm people. And there is no consequence of an election that will stop them to do that. The only way to stop them from doing that is to beat them in elections. There's no such thing as a moderate Republican anymore. They all fall in line. So if we really, really want to get America back on a path, or maybe for the first time on a path where we feel like we're actually caring about the most needy and actually providing freedom for everyone to live the life they actually want to live. Unfortunately, a lot of times talking about those exact things is not the way to do it. We have to play the game that's in front of us. We have to win elections. We have to work our asses off to win these elections. Griping about it on Twitter is not enough. If anybody is hearing this and they're concerned about these things, then you better be volunteering for a candidate. You better be helping a campaign next year or using their voice in some way to change the outcome of that election, because that's the only way this changes. It really does. So
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
we have to win in 26.
Well, hey, you are using your voice on the podcast and shamelessly plug that so the folks know where to find you.
Oh, yes. Damn, you even set me up for it. I forgot. On Trial with Josh Lowry, everywhere. YouTube. You can download Spotify, Apple, all those things. I'm just trying to be as cool as Scott. But actually, in all seriousness, uh, I think we all have to start to create more local media because it has fallen by the wayside. And so, major props to Scott for real, because he was kind of at the forefront of this, right? 2-3 years ago, or I don't know exactly when it started. This was the only one that was really, you and Dana Black were about it. And so there are more of us trying to give more options, but you stepped in front of everyone and kind of let us down. Hey, here's a way to do this. So major thanks and props to you for that.
Oh, thank you, sir. And big props to Dana, who's been doing this a lot longer than I have. She's a real gem. Hey, and another real gem who's using their voice up in the region, Tracy Martin. Shamelessly plug yourself.
Let me unmute myself. So, yeah, up here at it, we are trying to do a little bit of what Scott has done for the state up here in the region, because everybody knows we're our own odd little quirky corner. And we really do have a media desert up here. So, Blue by the Lake, Substack, all the podcast places were there. We are really trying to provide a place to have a blue lens on region life, because really we don't have anything else that's doing that right now. And I for me, I feel like one of the key things that everybody here on this panel is doing that's so important is we are providing alternative narratives, because narrative is what spins elections. It's the rocket fuel, it's the air, it's a story. That is what an election really is at the end of the day. You are providing competing visions of what America can be. And if we aren't providing alternatives for people to listen to and believe in, if we don't give people that, then they are going to vote for whatever is most expedient or comfortable for them. And so I think that the more that we are out there providing alternative stories, providing stories of resistance, providing stories of successes, providing opportunities for people to believe, yes, I can change things. We need to provide people with incentive to invest in making this heavy lift of change, because it is not impossible in Indiana. I don't care what you say. It's not. We've done it before. We can do it again. And we need to be providing people with reasons to believe that that's possible. So props to everybody here who is doing that on a daily basis. And if you want to come help me do that up here in the region, there I am down there. I'm pointing at it. You can't see me point, but I am.
Thanks, Tracy. Derek, finally, where can the good people find you?
They can find me at my newly revamped website, derekholder.com, just as it's spelt on the screen. I'm also on Facebook, Twitter, all that, under the People's Fourth. I am focusing heavily on Indiana's 4th Congressional District, um, with news, all the candidates. I'm going to have interviews with as many candidates as I can get on there. Obviously, push on the congressional ones to you, Scott. And, just like Tracy said, we're all trying to get information out there to the
I await those candidates with open arms, Derek. Thank you very much. All right, folks. Well, listen, that's going to do it here for today. You can find me at whosleft.us and on the social media sites at Who's Left, or on a couple of them at ScottROG78. Be sure to subscribe. Be sure to subscribe to Project Next. That is at Project Next Movement, I want to say, on most of the websites. But hey, y'all know how to use Google. Anyway, until next time, this has been Who's Lift This Week. My name's Scott Aaron Rogers, and I will always love you. Thanks, Indiana.